So in this video, I want to give you a few tips about efficiently debugging with Pyzo. So here I have a file that's kind of like the file that one of your friends made, I guess, on Discord. I should say I have not looked at that file carefully. In fact, I think there, at least initially, there were some bugs there. Might be wrong. Basically here we have several functions that get called that do the testing. So here I changed something a little bit. So I do import lib.reload Gomoku. So the goal here is to be able to rerun this and have Python actually reload Gomoku. So if you import twice, in general, Python is just not going to import the second time if the first import was successful. So if you fix a bug, that's not going to change anything. So I do this in order to get around that. Okay. So I'll just run this. So the first time that you're running the tester, you should make sure that tester and the Gomoku file and whatever other files you might be reading are all in the same folder, and you run using the run file as script. So what we see here is that it seems like there is an infinite loop, right? So it's not asking for new input. So what I do in this case is I say Control-I, and then I'll do shell postmortem. So what this does, it takes me to the point in the code where the execution was when I pressed Control-I, Command-I on the Mac. So usually it would be inside the loop that's causing the problem. And here you see that it is. So what I'm doing in the search max bad function is it just gets a random move y, move x between 0 and 7. And then I keep doing that while move y is greater than 0 or equal. And of course, it's always going to be because it's always between 0 and 7. So that's the infinite loop. So I'll fix it by just commenting this out completely. So in general, you almost never would see an infinite loop with a for loop. It's actually quite difficult to get it to do an infinite loop. So if you can, you should avoid using while loops. It's possible to avoid those in both project 2 and 3. In general, kind of if you can help it, you should avoid while loops if you can use a for loop. So I commented this out. I'll say Control-I to exit the debugging. Sometimes it doesn't work and I have to restart Python. So just restart it quickly. So now I'll intentionally switch to tester.py and I'll run it as script again. And here we have the same problem. So the reason we have the same problem is that I did not save gomoku.py. So you see it says modified here and it's red rather than white. So of course, when you import the file, you import it from disk, you import the saved version. Whatever is not saved is you can't import it. So I'll just go back here, I'll save. So Control-S, Command-S on the Mac, or you can do File and Save. So here it's white now. I'll do Control-I again. And now I can run the file as script. And what we see here is that the test case failed. So in general, what I would do in this kind of situation is I would go and so here I know that the call is over here, so I can put the breakpoint here, or else I could put it here and then step through everything here. So I'll choose to put the breakpoint here. I'll press Control-E. And now I can step in and just go line by line and see where the problem is. So I pressed the step in button. So here, well, you kind of see what the problem is. I'm just doing like a random move y and move x. So I'll kind of rig it to pass this particular test. So here I'm expecting 4.6. So I'll just rig it to be 4.6. I'll comment this out. And I'll return 4.6, like so. So again, save, and now I can rerun it, and I'll remove this breakpoint, and it passes search max, but it fails this. So if you have few tests, then it's pretty straightforward to do the same thing as before. If you have many tests, here's how to identify the problem quickly. So what I'll do is I'll say, okay, I know that test case 1 is failing. So I'll just put a breakpoint here where I'm about to print test case 1 for detect row failed. I'll run this. And when I'm here, so I just called this function. So what I can do is I can display board as a list. Just type here. And this I can copy and paste into my main block so that I can run this test case again. Here, it's not really necessary, but if you have a lot of test cases, it's really useful to be able to pull out the test case that's causing the problem and to then step through everything here. So I'll stop bugging, comment this out. I'll paste this here. I'll say board is equal to this. So now I got to set up the call here. So what I'll do is I'll just copy this. And that should set everything up. So now I can just call this. I'll copy it here, and I'll put a breakpoint here. So now I'll just run this, and I am at the point where I can tell exactly where things go wrong because I can, again, step in. And now I'm in detect row bad. As you can see, it's not really good, but here I can step through everything line by line if there is a loop or something, and hopefully see what's going wrong.